Welcome to UWS Weekly, a show that is dedicated to covering United Women's Soccer, a national pro-am league with your host, Jonathan Ward. Each and every week, we will highlight players, supporters, and staff of the clubs we all pride ourselves to support in North America. The UWS is a league that is committed to advancing women's soccer. Good evening, soccer fans, and welcome to UWS Weekly, a show dedicated to covering all things UWS and UWS2. My name is Jonathan, and I'll be your host for UWS Weekly. And tonight, I'm lucky to have the opportunity to be joined by the Commissioner and Executive Director of UWS and UWS2, Joe Ferrara and Stephanie Cleaves, to talk about their upbringing in the game, as well as the past, present, and future of both leagues. Joe and Stephanie, thank you so much for taking the time this evening to join me. And before we get started with questions, why don't you give us an introduction of yourselves and how you got involved in soccer and perhaps your roles in the league?
Jonathan, thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. I guess how I got involved in soccer, I was a prodigy at age 4 is when I began my playing career. But I guess for this telecast, I'll focus on my executive role here. In 1999, I started a franchise in the old USLW league 20 years ago. And then moved on to a different league. The team is called the New England Mutiny. And for the last 20 years, been owning and operating that franchise here in Massachusetts. Became an administrator for another league for 10 years. And then in 2016, started up United Women's Soccer and became its first commissioner and its commissioner to date. And that's pretty much the story of how I got involved on the administrative side. I'm excited to be here.
And I started playing soccer at age 5 in Michigan, and I ended up playing through college, and I actually got to play for the Honduras women's national team right after college. My father's from Honduras, so I have dual citizenship, and I also played pro-am soccer for UWS, for Lancaster Inferno. And how I became involved in the league, when it first started, I helped out with like the social media, kind of volunteered, and it evolved into a full-time position.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for giving us that insight. Let's get into some questions. Our first question for you guys: how did the idea of UWS come into play?
Well, UWS came to bear is really an amalgamation of two factors. There was a group of owners that were participating in a different league who were unhappy with the standards and the competition, the fact that there was a concentration of so many teams in a single market, that it was just being difficult to run a professional type franchise currently. At that point, I was actually looking into participating in the USLW League. And that was the second factor, is shortly during those discussions, the league actually folded. And I knew many of those teams and their ownership, and some of them were still interested in participating in a standards-based league with a high level of competition. So we were able to, get those two groups together, and the birth of UWS came to fruition in 2016.
Awesome. So what separates the UWS from other leagues throughout the country here in America, North America, and Canada?
Well, we're one of 2 national pro-am leagues in North America. And our goal, our vision is to be the preeminent pro-am women's league in North America. And so every decision we make really supports that vision that we have. And one thing that separates us is that we did develop a pyramid structure. So we have, we're working on affiliations with some regional amateur leagues and the ability for them to move up to League Two. And then also for League Two teams to move up to League One.
Awesome. So then the UWS started play in May of 2016. What was the hardest part of that first year?
Interesting. So East Conference really materialized rather organically in 2016. There was the issue. There were two Canadian teams that were participating, that wanted to participate in UWS from the old W League. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get sanctioning for those teams. Ontario province felt that their league was strong enough. The teams did not concur, but regardless, we weren't able to get sanctioning for those teams. But I would say by far the most difficult part of 2016 was establishing the West Conference. At that time, we had 4 teams willing to play, but one was located in Colorado, the other in Utah, another in Texas, and another in California. So travel was an issue. Plus, we felt we needed to have 5 teams to have a legitimate conference in the West. Thankfully, and it came to bear rather late in the process, we did get a 5th team to come in the West in December, which is rather late for expansion, but that was a great step for us to have that 5th team. And then from the league standpoint, it was like, okay, how can we make this work for these teams? How as a league can we help subsidize the travel for the teams? We can take some fees from the Eastern teams and discount fees for the West teams to help them with that travel component that was such immense at the time. We were pull some strings in terms of administration, operate more of a shoestring to help these teams out. We were able to make it happen, and it was a great moment for us to have the 2 conferences right off the bat, and what a superb conference that ended up being.
So the league starts in 2016. Obviously, it's still relatively young, moving into season 4, which was cut short or wasn't able to begin. But yet we still have the UWS 2. So what led to the development of the UWS 2, and why is it important for the growth of UWS to have this entity or this other opportunity within the league?
So UWS 2 was Joe's idea, and our executive team also worked with some of our member teams who gave their input, like Danny from FC Austin Elite. And we really wanted to provide a more inclusive platform for teams, for clubs, and give more opportunities for clubs and players to join our league. So our target market for League Two is, youth clubs that have a U23 team that they would like to provide a more competitive platform for their players. Also, youth clubs that would like to add a women's team to the top of their player pathway, and also reserve teams from UWS League One. A lot of our League One teams have reserve teams that need a competitive option. And then also we are providing the opportunity for more clubs that aren't quite ready for League One from, a player pool and financial standpoint. So it provides that opportunity for them to move up. And also we don't have conferences in League One for every club. So this also is an option for them.
Joe, you had something that you wanted to add as well?
Yeah, for UWS too, it definitely from the standpoint of our growth is important. it adds to our footprint, and it was important for us as we expand into other markets. There are some great organizations currently that have shown a strong interest in UWS. Unfortunately, we don't quite have that footprint in that particular area. This allows us to build that footprint and add these stellar teams and organizations into our League One structure. And for UWS too, with so many amateur women's teams out there throughout the country at a price point that we offer, I think the league is a perfect home for them.
Nice. So with that being said, the league has seen a lot of former players move on to play in leagues around the world. What do those moves mean to the league, or even the clubs that the players are leaving and representing across the country, across the United States, across Canada and Europe? What does that mean for the league?
Yeah, for the league, it definitely it validates the quality of the league for sure. And the players notice that they notice how UWS focuses on the players themselves. Very important. Team owners just feel that sense of pride to help their players achieve the next level. It's part of their mission, and all team owners are excited when a player gets to move on. I mean, there's no greater story than what's happened with Kate Howarth, our UWS reigning Player of the Year. Here's a player that's been playing in UWS for the last 4 years. Really doesn't have pro soccer on her radar. She's an EMT in the city of Boston, full-time job. She's in the front line, battling COVID and being a full-time firefighter, playing soccer in UWS, and she has a tremendous season. And it opened up eyes to NWSL scouts. She got invited to 4 scouting combines, tryouts for NWSL teams, and she ends up signing a contract with Orlando. That's a great story. Among our draftees, our college draftees, it's just great to see.
And there's, yesterday, Unity FC made an announcement of one of their community members, Harley Ford, is going to be in the NWSL draft this upcoming year. I think that's going to be kind of exciting to see. Really into the excitement and anticipation in that household itself, I know is extremely on edge, hoping that there's an opportunity. So we can only hope for that as well. What is something that has been learned? This league was in concept almost 5 years ago today. For the past 4 years, the league has been moving forward. And what is something you've learned from the past 4 years, helping the league grow and go further?
I think what I've definitely learned is the need for controlled but continuous expansion. Like I had mentioned earlier, several high quality organizations have reached out where we just are in the beginning stages of establishing conferences, and even our existing conferences. Travel is a big concern for teams at this level. Those travel budgets are very important. So to help build and expand and grow and help these teams sustain is very important. We're very proud of the fact that we're not a team that'll accept 30 teams in 1 year only to see 30 teams drop the next year. That's not what we're about. We're about sustainability of our teams. I am first and foremost a team owner, and secondly, a commissioner. I understand the sweat equity that the team owners put into their organizations, and it's incumbent on Stephanie and myself and the others in the office to help these teams survive and sustain. It's not necessarily about growing. It's about sustaining, what our teams have done to this point.
Stephanie, anything to add on to that?
No, I think Joe covered it well. Yeah.
So what has been an area of concern or focus during this uncertain time? I mean, teams and leagues have stopped, they've played, they've stopped, they've played, states are shutting down. What is an area of concern or focus during this COVID times?
Just that we want to do everything we can to help our member teams navigate through everything, which is a large part of why our financial policy during COVID was to credit our member teams 80% of their league fees to carry out over to 2021. So, we, like Joe said, we're all team owners as well. So we realize, the struggles, and we want to help teams maintain sustainability.
Nice. What is something you can share about the league as we move into 2021 and beyond?
Oh, Jonathan, I'd say we'd have to stay tuned to UWS Weekly for that one, because we're on the cusp of some new and exciting announcements, some new conferences coming on board, and some really new and exciting partnerships that will provide some great opportunities for our female athletes and coaches that we're excited about, and stay tuned for those announcements.
Excited to hear it. So we have some questions from the community coming from Twitter. The first question comes from Dan, and his question is, with the new Mid-Atlantic UWS 2 conference starting, can we expect to see Mid-Atlantic teams joining the UWS anytime soon?
A few of those teams have actually expressed that they'd like to join League One in 2022. And then we also have some applications for some new teams for that conference, which is exciting.
Awesome. And then from Danielle, she asks, I hear secondhand that the league is set up as a feeder to the NWSL. Is this true?
Well, we've had many players drafted to NWSL rosters. We have over 1,000 players in our league alone. You add the college players, national team players, international professionals. There are many thousands of female players, and with only few NWSL roster spots available. Quite honestly, I think we would shortchange our mission if we were, specifically a feeder program for just NWSL. Globally, we've been, tremendous in helping our players get overseas contracts, professional contracts. I've processed over 200 international transfer certificates alone. Over 100 professional contracts have been signed in various leagues. Something close to home is, a half hour from my apartment in Italy is Napoli, and 3 UWS players happen to, within the league, not even within the last year, have signed contracts in Napoli. So that's, an exciting opportunity for them. Even the teams that are quote unquote NWSL reserve teams, those players have been identified, ahead of time. So, like I said, to be strictly a feeder for NWSL, even though we have a tremendous relationship with the teams in the organization, I think would be shortchanging our vision.
So we did have a question that just came on over YouTube coming from Brad Ward. When will play start? Will we be seeing any soccer coming up in 2021 with kind of the current situation? Are we waiting and waiting for states and regulations to be given the green light? What is some of the ideas behind play for 2021?
So there are still some unknowns, right? What's making this off season, which is making us work harder, Stephanie and myself, is that, we're planning for contingencies. It's not just, status quo or a normal situation. There's the potential that we may start later than usual. There's the potential that there may be no fans in the stands. There's the potential that there might be no issues. There might be no soccer. We need to prepare for all those contingencies. So it's unlike a normal season. But we're envisioning starting, pretty much that normal time frame of middle to late May. We don't feel like even the NCAA championships that'll occur towards the middle of May. I don't think that player pool will have too much of an effect on our rosters. So if all goes well, health-wise, we should be able to start on time.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. I know all of our viewers are as well. Before we part this evening, I have one question for each of you. And that question simply is, what does community mean to you?
So, I guess I can use one of my stories from, operating the New England Mutiny. We have a pretty dynamic thing here happening in New England. I once put together a little promotional video that, I showed the players and staff to kind of highlight what the organization is all about. In that video is, highlights some of the great players that have come through the organization who have gone on to play professional. It shows our visits to the Children's Hospital and our community outreach programs. It shows our game day operations and our fan base and the little girls walking out with players before the game, signing out autographs after the games. And there was one particular clip there of a television station that highlighted our games, and they panned to the crowd, and in one of the shots there was a group of 4 or 5 10-year-old girls in the stands, and a couple of them were holding up signs, about with the name and jersey number of our players. One of our players happened to be from that hometown of the game we were playing in. So I was showing these videos to the team, and one of my players said, could you stop the video and rewind it to that part where she was focusing in on the 10-year-old girls in the stands. So I rewound the video. It was a VHS back then, right? So I'm trying to find the spot, and I had absolutely no idea where she was going with this. So rewinding to that spot, freeze framed it, and to the part where the little girl's holding up a "Go Jenny" sign, number 24 at the time, and she stops and addresses the crowd and says, "I just want everybody to know that little kid in that video, that's me." Yeah. So
Awesome.
So after 10 years, that little girl in the stands ended up actually playing for my team. And it just doesn't get any better than that as an owner to see that, type of community feel that, it's more, we try to tell our players it's more than just a game. We're out in the community. We're doing our outreach programs. We're seeing the kids in the hospitals, and that's the organization has a long history, and many of our teams throughout the league are doing similar type things.
Awesome. Stephanie?
Well, as a league, we're working towards equality and inclusion in our sport. There's not enough opportunities for women's soccer. And just connecting with the community of individuals and organizations that are working towards the same thing is huge. We're stronger together. And one example is, you, Jonathan, reaching out to us about doing the show. I mean, this has to be the first show ever covering Pro-Am women's soccer. So very awesome.
Awesome. Well, Joe and Stephanie, we thank you for the time that you've given us this evening to talk about the league. We're not done yet with the show, obviously, but I want to let you guys go. I know you've got some other things to attend to, but we're excited to have more opportunities like this to talk, and we hope to do it again soon and see you guys again soon. And so cheers. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
All right. So with the UWS, there's also been a lot of off-season news to date. And so we are ecstatic to unveil new conferences in both the UWS and UWS2, beginning with the Central Conference, which is the addition of teams in Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri. The founding members of this conference are Gretna Elite Academy out of Omaha, Nebraska, KC Courage out of Overland Park, Kansas, St. Louis Scott Gallagher, located in St. Louis, Missouri, and Springfield Devise out of Springfield, Missouri. They'll be working alongside our guests tonight in the UWS to work and play in the Central Conference. So keep your eyes out for that as we move into 2021. League Two has announced the formation of two new conferences, the first being the Great Lakes Conference, the second being the Mid-Atlantic Conference in preparation of the 2021 season. All 7 teams in the Great Lakes Conference hail from the state of Michigan: AFC Plymouth, Corktown AFC, Legends FC, Grand Haven Admirals, Livonia City FC, North Oakland SC, and Rebels FC. The Mid-Atlantic Conference is composed of clubs located in Maryland and Pennsylvania. Those clubs, there's 4 teams that will make up this newly formed conference: Annapolis United FC, Keystone FC, Lancaster Inferno, and Maryland Elite SC. So one of the new segments that we're actually going to be bringing to you each and every week is called the Techni Skill of the Week. And thank you to our partner, Techni Football. Techni is an app to help players develop strong training habits on their own through repetition, tracking, and competition. Former U.S. national team and professional player Yael Averbush puts out new training sessions every week with guest players and exciting new challenges regularly. So check them out in the App Store or your Android and get a 7-day free trial as a part of that. So one of the cool things that they have going on right now that you could check out is on Twitter at Techni Football for Skills of the Day. And don't forget to participate in the UWS Skill Challenge. This week's skill challenge is how many juggles, alternating feet, can you do in 1 minute? Both the player with the top score and one entry selected at random will win a prize pack from Techni and the UWS. All you have to do is follow UWS Soccer and Techni on Twitter, attempt the skill, post it, tag UWS and Techni while challenging 3 of your friends. Make sure to use hashtag UWS Skills for your chance to win. So good luck to everybody who tries that. Next week, we hope to have some submissions to show what's happening in the league. You can do that. You can direct message me on Twitter at John_OCOT, or you can send it to the league and we'll make sure we get it up for you guys next week. Also, one of the segments that we want to highlight is a segment that is dedicated to highlighting individuals in our community of soccer, whether it's somebody doing a good deed, a supporter, club staff, or player who's doing awesome things to support their club or community off the pitch. This week, we'd like to highlight a member of the immediate USC community in Joe Johnstone from Atlanta. Joe is not only an awesome person, he's also the producer of the show. He's an engaging supporter who is always paying attention to clubs and a great example of how a little thoughtfulness goes a long way and does wonderful, selfless things for this and his community in Atlanta. So, Joe, if you can, go ahead and jump on stage. Good evening, Joe. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm glad to be here. This is very exciting.
I first want to say thank you to you for agreeing to produce the show. It's awesome that you're doing it. My question for you, sir, before I read a little snippet from our friends down at Unity FC is, why are you so passionate about being a part of this community and making soccer so open for all people?
Well, I think for me, just this whole sense of the pandemic and whatnot that started, because I kind of kickstarted everything with me and trying to find as many grassroots clubs, women's clubs that I can just kind of connect with throughout this entire time. And so I've just been very excited to find a lot of really, truly authentic people and just that sense of community that a lot of people lacked during this pandemic. So I found mine through social media and so just basically trying to be the best supporter I could just to grow the game, because that's kind of the reason that I'm here, is just because I want to be everyone's supporter. I want everyone to succeed.
I think your shirt says it all. I mean, it's not
true.
Soccer for all. I think it says it all. And you do a wonderful job, Joe, of supporting and bringing everybody together in this community. So, Joe, I'm going to read to you this story that has been shared with me from Mark Ford, who is the owner of Unity FC. So if you don't mind, you might want to get your tissues out.
Let me get some tissues.
So this is from Mark Ford. He is the owner of Unity FC down in Florida. Check them out at Unity FC on Twitter. So he says, we met Joe as we met most now during the pandemic through social media. We saw a post he made on a friend's Twitter feed that he had COVID-19. We could only imagine that it was a scary time for him. Having our UWS season interrupted by COVID pandemic, we have a deep affinity and compassion for anyone suffering from it. Our primary sponsor is Squincher Hydration Products, so we reached out and sent Joe some Squincher so he could stay hydrated. That is the origin story of how we met Joe. Since the initial meeting via Twitter, he has become ingrained in a permanent member of the Unity family, our Georgia General. Despite his COVID battle and his own stops and starts through the crisis, as a teacher, he has supported us by raising the bids and winning online merchandise auctions, offering to help sponsor the team, sponsor individual players, buying merchandise, and in his own words, do whatever it takes, whatever you need. When we started at Unity FC 3 years ago, we did not imagine that one of the most adherent supporters would be a kind-hearted school teacher from a mere 500 miles away in Marietta, Georgia. And during a pandemic to boot, Joe is not only a supporter, he is one of us, a true part of Unity. He is part of us because he believes in the Unity way and shares our belief in people first, soccer second, build bridges and not roadblocks. In addition to any financial support, the emotional support, being a voice that we can turn to, and a sounding board is such a rare commodity. Joe, we will be thrilled to see you on the sideline when we return to play. We will have that Unity flag for you to wave loud and proud. We love you, General Joe. Once Unity, always Unity. #one team.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
So thank you so much for everything you do for our community of UWS and everything you do for soccer in general. We really appreciate it, my friend.
I'm just happy to be here. Thanks so much.
All right, man. I'm going to let you pop on screen here.
All right.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this evening for the first episode of UWS Weekly. You can follow all things UWS and UWS2 on their social media pages and send your questions for future shows as well. Don't forget to join us every Thursday at 7:30 Eastern for UWS Weekly and on Monday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, for Our Cup of Tea, which is another show that's dedicated to all things women's soccer. So until next time, cheers, everyone, and have a great and fabulous evening.